Hey guys, welcome back to more Entitled Parents Reddit stories. In this Ripe Stories video, imagine being kicked out of your home at just 14 years old, all because your golden child brother's twisted lie. And now, decades later, the parents who abandoned you are standing on your front porch with suitcases. They are demanding to move into your brand new house and urge you to sign over the deed to them. What would you do? Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, I refuse to give my parents my house after they disowned me as a teen. So I'm gonna try to keep this short, but honestly there's a lot to unpack, so bear with me. I'm in my early 30s now and I work in tech, the kind of job that pays well but eats your soul if you let it. I bought a house last year. It is nothing crazy, but it is mine. I worked for it and I want to make that very clear before I get into the rest of this because it becomes important later. To understand what happened recently, you need to know what happened when I was 14. Growing up, I had one brother, 2 years younger than me. I will call him Damon. That is not his name and he doesn't deserve his actual name being used here, but Damon was the golden child from the moment he could form any sentences. I mean, he was charming, the kind of kid adults love because he says please and thank you and has an answer ready for every question. Teachers wrote glowing notes about him, coaches loved him, and my parents talked about him the way people talk about lottery winners, and I was just the other kid. I was quieter, I liked computers and books, and I got decent grades, but not amazing ones. My mom used to say I had a face that only a mother could love, and laugh at it like it was the funniest thing in the world. My dad once told a relative that I was the practice round. I'm not even making that up, guys. I remember the exact moment because I was standing in the kitchen pouring cereal and I just kept pouring after the bowl was full because I didn't know what to do with my hands. So yeah, that was the dynamic. Damon could basically do no wrong. And I could do nothing right. If anyone has ever lived this dynamic, you already know the rules. The golden child gets the new clothes, the scapegoat gets blamed when the milk goes bad. Basically like this, whatever. When I was 14 though, Damon started telling people that I beat him up. Not just roughhousing, he said I was hitting him on purpose, slamming him into walls, leaving bruises, and to be perfectly clear here, and I cannot stress this enough, I never laid a hand on my brother. We argued, sure, we fought over the remote. And yeah, I once threw a sock at him, but that was the extent of my so-called abuse. However, Damon was clever. He showed up to dinner with bruises, he cried in front of our mom and said that he was scared of me, and he told our aunt that he hid in the closet at night. The bruises, I found out later by the way, were from him deliberately falling off his bike on a trail behind our house. He had a whole routine. He would like ride down a hill, dump the bike and walk home limping. My parents didn't ask me, they did not even sit me down. They did not talk to a counselor or a teacher or a doctor, they just decided. My mom started watching me like I was a feral animal, my dad stopped talking to me at all, and within a couple months they told me they could not have me in the house anymore because Damon was afraid for his safety. I was 14 years old. They sent me to live with my mom's sister, who already had 4 kids of her own, and made sure that every single day that I knew I was a burden. So I got disowned at 14 because my little brother wanted attention and figured out he could get it by destroying me. I will spare you the deep dive on what those years were like. The short version though, my aunt's house was not a home. I worked from the time I was 15, every job a kid can legally do, and a few they probably can't. I slept on a pull-out couch in a basement room with no heat, and I ate a lot of off-brand cereal. I got into state school on loans and grants and a scholarship I won by writing an essay about resilience that I'm pretty sure was just trauma in a trench coat. I went no contact with my parents the day I turned 18. I changed my number, I blocked them on everything I could, and my aunt and uncle didn't fight me on it. I think they were tired of pretending what's happening too. I cut Damon off without a word. He didn't try to reach out, which honestly told me everything I needed to know, and I built a life for myself. It took me years. I worked entry-level support, clawed my way into a real engineering role, and then to a senior position. My job is decent and my coworkers don't know my history, and my therapist says that I'm doing the work, whatever that means. And I got married briefly. It didn't work out, not because of any of this stuff, just a regular failed marriage things. I'm fine though. Last year, I bought my house. I cried in the driveway after I got the keys because for the first time in my entire life, nobody could tell me to leave. Okay, now we get to the part though that made me come here. So about 4 years ago, I got a Facebook message from a cousin I had not talked to since I was a kid. She said she was sorry to bother me, but my parents were going through something and didn't know how to reach me. Could she pass along my number? Every alarm in my body went off. I almost said no, but I'd been in therapy for years and I figured I could handle a phone call. I told her she could give them my number, but I made no promises about answering anything. My mom called the next day, I let it go to voicemail, and she left this long weepy message about how much she missed me, how proud she was of the man I'd become. She had no idea what kind of man I had become. She hadn't even seen me since I was a little kid. How she had been praying every day that we could reconnect. She also said she wanted to get coffee, but I deleted it. She called again, and by the 5th call I picked up just to tell her to stop. That was a big mistake though. The second I said hello, she started crying. Not the subtle crying, full theatrical crying. Through the sobs, she explained that she and my dad were in a tough spot. They had lost their house, the mortgage had been refinanced too many times, and my dad had been laid off. They had health issues, blah blah blah. They were currently staying with Damon, but Damon had a small apartment and a girlfriend, and apparently it was not sustainable. I asked her very calmly why she was telling me this, and she said, and I want you to read this twice because I had to. We were hoping you could help us out, sweetheart. Family helps family. I laughed at that, out loud into the phone. I couldn't stop myself. I asked her if she remembered being family to me when I was 14, and she started in with the excuses immediately. We thought you were a danger. We had to protect Damon. You don't understand what it's like to be a parent. I told her I had to go and hung up. And yeah, I should have left it there, I really should have, but she kept calling. She left voicemails, she emailed me, she got my dad to email me, and he sent this short clip message that was mostly grammatical errors and weirdly aggressive considering that he was asking for help. It said something like, "Your mother needs you, be a man about this, we are family." And by the way guys, how is it always these entitled parents that say, "We are family," after they neglected OP and threw OP away basically like trash for decades? So yeah, that was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of anything, just orders, so I blocked them again. I figured that would be the end of it. However, I got a knock on my door on a Saturday morning. I opened it without thinking, expecting a delivery, and my mom was standing on my porch. My dad was behind her. They had 2 suitcases between them and a look on both their faces like they had every right to be there. I have no idea how they got my address. I genuinely still don't know. Maybe it was one of the cousins that have given it to them, I don't know, but there's gonna be a reckoning about that at some point. Either way, my mom started crying immediately when she saw me. She tried to hug me, but I stepped back. My dad looked over my shoulder into the house and I watched his face do something that I will never forget. He looked at the hallway, my floor, still a little entry table I'd bought, and his eyes did the thing where they sort of calculated, like he was estimating something. It was like he was deciding how much of this was now his. I asked them what they were doing, and my mom said, and I quote here, "We are moving in, honey, just for a little while, until we are back on our feet." I told her, absolutely not. I told her she needed to leave my porch immediately. I told her I had not invited them, would not invite them, and that I was calling someone to remove them if they did not go. This is where it actually got loud. My mom's face went from crying to furious in about half a second. I had seen that switch before. She used to do it when I was a kid, weeping 1 minute and screaming the next one. She said, "After everything we did for you, you cannot even let your parents stay in your spare room?" My dad jumped in with, "You owe us. You would not be alive without us." Direct quote. He actually said that. I told them I owed them nothing, and I told them they had thrown me away when I was a kid. I told them that they had believed a teenage liar over their own kid, and they had never apologized to me, never checked, never even asked if Damon had been telling the truth before they shipped me off to my aunt's basement. My mom got this expression and she said, "Damon was a kid, he was scared." I said I was a child too. She did not have a response to that. And by the way guys, before we continue here, if your parents would be as awful as this and they showed up at your doorstep, would you have let them stay with you, even if it meant otherwise that they would be on the streets? Would you be able to forgive them? Let me know in the comments what you would have done. Also, please don't forget to like the video because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much. My mom then switched tactics. The crying came back. She said they were gonna be on the street and they had nowhere else to go. Damon's girlfriend had kicked them out and they had a car full of stuff and no plan. She said, and this killed me, "Don't you have any compassion?" I said, "Yeah, I do. That's why I'm not letting you ruin my life again." She raised her voice loud enough that I actually saw a neighbor's curtain move across the street. She said, "This house is too big for one person anyway. You don't even have kids. What do you need it for?" "You got lucky and now you won't share with the people who raised you?" My dad finally spoke up and he said, "Look, the way we see it, you owe us. We raised you, we fed you, and this house, let's be honest, you wouldn't have any of this if we hadn't given you a foundation. We're not asking for a handout. We are asking you to do the right thing and sign this house over to us, or at least put us on the deed. After all, we are your parents." My mom added, "It's the Christian thing to do." And by the way, guys, I'm not sure if it's really a Christian thing to do to abandon your child and then come back decades later begging. Doesn't sound very Christian to me, but anyway, I almost laughed again at their audacity. I said the only luck involved here was being lucky enough to escape them. My dad shoved past me, just shoved, walked into my entryway with his suitcase, my mom followed him, and I want to be very clear that this is the moment something in me snapped. Not in a violent way, in a clarity way. I had spent 15 years in therapy and self-help books and journaling and every healing technique you can name trying to undo the damage these people did to me, and they were now standing in my hallway trying to do it again. In my house, the one I cried over in the driveway, and I told them they had 10 seconds to get out before I called the police. My dad scoffed and said something like, "You wouldn't dare to call the cops on your own father." I picked up my phone, I dialed, and I put it on speaker. You have never seen two people leave a house faster. My dad grabbed his suitcase, my mom muttered something I couldn't hear, and they were back on the porch in about 3 seconds. I told the dispatcher that I had 2 trespassers leaving my property and asked if I needed an officer. The dispatcher was honestly the calmest person involved. She said I should call back if they didn't actually leave, but they left. My mom kept turning around to look at me like I was gonna change my mind. So I shut the door and locked it and slid down it and sat on the floor for I don't know how long. I thought that would be the end, I really did, but unfortunately, it was not the end. Damon called me that night. Damon, who had not spoken a word to me in like a decade and a half. He was furious. He said I was a piece of garbage for throwing my parents into the street. He said I was selfish, and he said I'd always been selfish, and he said it was unbelievable that I was still bitter about so-called kid stuff from years ago. And yeah, I let him talk, I let him get all of it out. I said almost nothing, but the gist of it was that he was a kid and he didn't know what he was doing and he never thought it would go that far and he just wanted attention and our parents were really hard on him too. He said he was sorry, just like that, casual little sorry after 15 years of letting me be the family villain. Later, my mom called from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up because I thought it was a recruiter. The second I heard her voice, I almost hung up, but she started talking fast. She said she knew I was angry, she said she was sorry, years of saying nothing and now she was sorry. Yeah, right. She said she just needed somewhere to stay for a few weeks. She said she would sleep on the floor, she said she would clean, she would cook, and then she said in the same breath, "And honestly, since the house is in your name, we wouldn't even need to be on the lease. You wouldn't have to tell anyone." I asked her what she meant by that and she got cagey. She said she just meant she didn't want to be a burden. But I knew what she meant. I've spent enough time around these kinds of people to know how their brains work. She wasn't asking to crash on my couch, she was asking to dig in, and she was asking for the start of an arrangement that would slowly become permanent and then become hers. I had seen my mom do this to her own sister. She basically moved in for 2 weeks once when I was little and stayed 8 months and rearranged the kitchen, so I told her no. I told her I wished her the best but I would not be helping. I told her not to call me again and she said, and this is the line that finally let me close the door on it forever, she said, "You will regret this when we are dead." I said, maybe, but probably not, and I hung up. I blocked the number, I blocked every number I could. I got my phone set up now so that anyone not in my contacts goes straight to voicemail, and my voicemail is full because I refused to clear it. Damon tried to reach out one more time. He wanted to have a real conversation about everything. He wanted closure, but I told him to F off. I heard through the cousin that my parents are now staying in some kind of extended stay motel. My dad got a part-time job at a hardware store. My mom is, in her words, looking. They are not on the street. They were never gonna be on the street, they had options, I just was not one of them, so that is where I am now. The reason I'm posting is that one of the apologetic aunts called me last week and very gently said that even though she understood my position, she thought maybe down the line I might want to open the door a crack, and she said she didn't want me to be lonely when I'm older. She said she didn't want me to look back and wish I had tried, and I'll be honest, that one got under my skin. Not because I'm reconsidering or something, I'm actually not, but because it made me wonder if I'm being unreasonable. I mean, they are old, they are struggling, and they are in a motel. I have a 3-bedroom house and I live alone. The math on paper looks bad for me, but every time I think about handing them a key, I think about being 14 years old and standing on a porch with a duffel bag. So Reddit, am I the a-hole in this situation for refusing to give my parents my house or even a room in it after they disowned me as a teenager because they believed my brother's lie that I beat him up? And yeah guys, now I want to share my opinion about this story, so obviously I would say anti-A, and frankly, I think that you're being more generous than I would be in this situation. Speaking to OP, these people made a unilateral decision to believe one child over another just based on vibes and bike bruises, and then they shipped you across town like a return package. There was apparently no investigation, no therapist, no doctor, no teacher consultation. They simply treated OP like a piece of dirt. Also, the classic "you don't even have kids, what do you need it for" line is really classic narcissistic parents. It could almost be in a textbook. Also, OP does not owe these people anything if you ask me. She does not owe them shelter, she does not even owe them a goodbye. I mean, OP bought this house with her own money, and then the parents want to walk in and act like they earned it by being her biological parents. If you ask me, that is not family, that is what I would call a hostile takeover with extra steps. And by the way guys, this is future ripe here while editing. For some reason I called OP her in the story, but obviously that is not correct. Sorry for that. And now a comment from Reddit. This one said, "NTA, I bought my first house 3 years ago after grinding through college on loans my parents refused to co-sign because I made choices. Guess who showed up the week I got the keys asking about the spare room?" So yeah, I can say the audacity is universal, and what people who have not lived this don't understand is that for parents like OP's, your success is not a source of pride, it is a source of entitlement. They did not help you build it, but they think they are owed a piece of it because they were technically present when you were a minor. That is it, that's the entire claim. So yeah, OP, you bought that house, not them, not your brother, and you keep it. And yeah guys, I would say amen to that comment. It's always good to see some reasonable Reddit comments. And the next one is an interesting entitled parents story, which is titled "Leave Everything You Have to Our Children." I'm 39, successful, and I'm quite well off. My siblings sadly are not. My brother, 42, has 3 children. My sister, 35, also has 3 with 1 on the way. My youngest sister, 28, is married and pregnant, but she had nothing to do with the events of this post. So anyway, we were all raised to believe that money doesn't matter, and all you need is a happy marriage and lots of kids to live a happy life. Being poor and having lots of kids was somehow glorified. Maybe because that's the way our parents lived and wanted to convince themselves that they didn't F up. Fortunately for me, I did not buy into that nonsense. I always knew I never wanted children. I focused on my career and on achieving success, and today I have my own house, wonderful pets, and a loving boyfriend. My family, however, seems to think that there's something wrong with my lifestyle. My parents have often commented that my 5-bedroom house is empty without any kids running around. And my siblings often tell me that I'm selfish for not having kids and actually enjoying my life. However, their disdain for my selfish lifestyle doesn't stop them from begging for money. My brother and sister have called me and asked me to help pay their bills. And now, if it's something serious like clothes or school supplies for their kids, I'm willing to pitch in. But I always refuse when I'm asked to pay for trips to amusement parks, etc. I also paid for my parents to stay in a high-end assisted living facility. They are my parents. I felt that I owed them this much. I've moved them to a less luxurious facility because of something horrible they did. I will make a post about that too if you're interested. However, I could not help but feel insulted when they sang praises for my siblings for essentially breeding and following in their footsteps, and how my parents wish I had done the same. As if among all their kids kids, I'm the biggest disappointment, and for this reason, I've distanced myself from them. I only call or visit to check up on them, and I don't let them be a part of my life. The other day, I got a call from my sister asking if she, her husband, my brother, and his wife could come over. I said okay, and they asked me to leave my fortune to their kids in equal portions, and if I did, they would stop asking me for financial help. And they said this as if they were doing me a favor. "You don't have kids, so who are you gonna leave it to?" asked my brother. I told them I was going to leave my money to charities and that I don't owe them anything. When they went on the "you're selfish" tirade, I told them to get lost. The next morning I got a call from my dad telling me that they were disappointed in me, and I simply hung up. The one family member who has stood by me is my youngest sister. She actually has her crap together, and I couldn't be more proud of her. By the way, added, here's what my parents did to deserve the downgrade. After the altercation with my siblings, my parents tried a different strategy. They tried to sweet talk me, and suddenly their tune had changed from "you're so selfish" to "oh, we didn't mean it, let's talk." So after they kept pestering me, had a word with them in person, I invited them over, and my parents know damn well that chocolate is bad for dogs, but my mom has tried to give them some on many occasions. When I tell her off, she always comes back with, "but maybe they like it, and I was just being nice." This time when I came over, I left them in the living room and went to the kitchen to get some refreshments. While I was there, one of my dogs came over to greet them. I could see them from the kitchen. My mom petted him for a while and then reached into her purse and pulled out a bar of chocolate. She broke off a piece and was about to give it to him when I stormed over and knocked it out of her hands. My parents looked shocked and I was enraged. Even after being told repeatedly that chocolate is bad for dogs, they just didn't get it. When I asked my mom what the hell she was doing, my dad actually started yelling at me and told me I was being rude. I told them either they were complete idiots or they were intentionally trying to hurt my dog. I told them I was sick of their BS and that they were on very thin ice with me. When they tried to argue back, I grabbed my dad by the arm, walked him out of the door, and my mom followed. This was less than a month ago, and a few days ago they were moved to a much less cushy facility. They won't be mistreated there. I would never allow that to happen, but all they'll have are nutritious meals, medical care, and a television they'll gotta share with others. The nice fully furnished mini apartment they had earlier, with all kinds of luxuries, will soon be a distant memory. And yeah guys, let me know whether you think OP was the a-hole in this story or not. And the next one is a petty revenge story which is titled "House Flippers Drove a Skid Loader Through My Front Yard." So several months ago, the house next to me went up for sale and was immediately bought by a house flipper. The very first day the contractors showed up to start painting the brick and put in crappy fake flooring, they dropped a porta potty right on the side of the house next to my house. So I come home from a day of work, park my car right in front of my house in the street like I always do, get out of my car, look down and say, what the hell is all this mud? Mud all over the street where they unloaded the skid loader, tire tracks right up to the sidewalk, and straight through my damn front lawn, cutting across to where they dropped the damn porta potty. So I completely flew off the handle. I yelled at every contractor out there until someone gave me the number of their boss. I was trying to get the owner's number, but I only got the contractor. Either way, that's fine. I called and chewed out both the porta potty company and the contractor. Both argued with me that I was wrong, so I then parked my little Honda right where they unloaded the skid loader to prevent future unloading in front, and I also then drove my truck on down to Lowe's and bought a steak and no trespassing sign, and I then put the no trespassing sign right on my property line. I then left my Civic in that spot for about 1.5 weeks and just drove the truck out of spite. During this time, I had to deal with contractors' trash making its way into my yard daily, wrecks, dust masks, etc. I would overhear them laughing how I have my property lines wrong, that my sign is now on their yard, etc. 1.5 weeks late, when I get in my little Civic, somehow my front windshield is now cracked completely across. It has since been progressing all different directions. Odd how my windshield just magically broke, I guess. I'm pretty certain the contractors were mad at me for yelling at them and were throwing random bits of crap at it. I cannot prove it, so it's a whatever point now. Well, several months later they clear out and the for sale sign comes up. Thank God, it might finally be over. I leave my no trespassing sign up anyways, and several people come and go looking at the house. All the meanwhile, I have a crappy broken up no trespassing sign flopping in the wind, my ugly Civic with a broken windshield, ugly and multicolor right now from a couple hit and run accidents, sitting right there at the edge of my house facing theirs. So once again, I come home from work one day and my no trespassing sign has been stolen off my property line. That's it, I'm done with this. I call the realtor company and my blood is pumping. I get the receptionist and realize this is not her fault. I try to calm down a bit and keep cool with her, but I'm still a bit angry, so I'm stern with her and tell her to tell the realtor to get a surveyor out here, mark the lines, bring back my sign and apologize, and after she's done with that, the contractor can roll up the sod truck, resort my side of the yard and apologize as well. The receptionist then asked if I wanted the realtor's direct number, and I replied, really not a good idea with how angry I am right now, just relay the message for me, and then I hung up. Well, a couple days later on Sunday, I hop in the truck, go back down to Lowe's, get bright orange paracord and a new no trespassing sign, and as I get home, my old no trespassing sign is magically back. The realtor waited until I left to return it. I still proceeded to run my property line with my bright orange paracord though, and new no trespassing signs. Well, a couple days later, coincidentally, my Civic gets reported to code enforcement as abandoned, and well, guess what? It is not. I called code enforcement, and they were actually really cool with me. I explained it was completely legal and that I drove that car to work that day, and they removed me from the list right away. Today I get a note taped to my front door. The contractor is trying to apologize now several months later and offering me $500 if I will just please remove my no trespassing signs so they can sell the house easier. Well, I'm ready to tell them all to go kick rocks. I want this house flipper to just bleed financially on this house for several months, and I won't be calling back for several days if ever. And yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you cannot get enough of my videos, please check out my playlist on the left, and I will see you again tomorrow.